I meant to ask how many people, but I see us coming on in now. I'm
Yeah.
super excited. Come on into our Zoom room. Glad you're here today. Hey, can you hear me okay? I'm going to bring my mic a little closer.
I can hear you here. Yeah, looking good.
Yeah? Okay, good deal. You all let me know where you're joining us from. Are you local? Are you in the Charlotte area? Are you joining from other state?
Let's
I am
go ahead
in.
and maybe write your name and something about yourself in the chat so we can get a little sense of who you are and welcome you while everybody's falling in. I'm Peter Safer from Charlotte Score, and Cheryl is from Atlanta, and I'll introduce her formally before we get started. Thank you.
Good to have you all here. I hope you all were not affected by the storm. I mean, it affected some people, but not everybody. I'm always in like the eye. I don't usually get it, but I'm hoping you all were safe. Hey, Eric and Tura, Sharika and Michael and Jennifer and Robin, Carmelia, Nicholas. Hey there, Deshauna, Bernie. I love the spelling of your name. Natasha, Alton. So glad y'all are here. Tom and Carl, Malik and Darren, Nima. Hey there, Nima. And Lawrence and Leslie, Carson. I may not get to everybody's name before we have to start. Molly. I am so glad you guys are all here. Thank you so much for joining. Get those names in here. Where did I leave off? Latrice and Leslie Carson. Oh, I got y'all already. I got y'all already. Melissa and Jasmine, Ann and Timothy. Is it Kania? Kansia? I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name. Glad you're here though. Kimberly and Jeremy. Shalonda, Ed, Melissa. Hey, everybody. Anna. I'm so glad y'all have come in today. You are actually spending some of your life with us. You know that, right? You can make money, you cannot make time. You give this up, you give it up. So I'm going to try to make it worth it. Yeah, good deal.
Well, maybe we'll get started in the interest of that time, that precious time. So again, I'm Peter Safer from the Charlotte Square chapter and welcome you. This is a very special occasion. If it's your first time participating in a webinar by Cheryl, you're in for a treat. She is, from my point of view, SCORE's best friend. We have nobody who can present more information with more enthusiasm in the time window that we have. And she manages to be interactive as well. So Cheryl, we've been working with her for years. She is the founder and CEO of Doolin Nonprofit Services out of Atlanta. She has her own business and she makes money at her business, but this she does for free. She does this for us as give back to the community. So it's very generous, but she is top of the game, probably the best or one of the best in the country. So having said all that, she's also high speed and somehow manages to interact. So I have the easiest time. I don't have to do much of anything when Cheryl's here. So I'm welcoming everybody in. I think, as I said, introduce yourself in the chat. Cheryl takes a pause every now and then and fields a bunch of questions. I won't say you'll get every question answered, but she has a high track record of knocking a lot of them out. The practice we say will record the meeting and have any slides that are shown available later. One of our SCORE admin partners will get them to all registered people. I say that, but once in a while, people will contact me and say they didn't get it. So I'm Peter Safer at the Charlotte Square office. If all else fails and you didn't get in the next few days copy of the slides and access to the video, then contact me and I'll track it down for you. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl and take my elderly face off of the screen.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much to Score Charlotte for allowing me this opportunity to share. I am here for you. This is about you today. I was sharing with Pete before we came on that this morning I woke up and decided to change the entire presentation. I thought about you all last night. I started thinking about, well, who's coming into our room? What kind of information might you need? And I have had the same presentation for a very long time, still valid. But this morning I thought I want to make sure that I give you guys my absolute best. And so I'm going to do that in just a sec. But one of the things I want you to be thinking about is your questions. I know you're going to have them, and that is perfectly fine. But as Pete said, we have a lot of information to get to. So if we can keep the questions topical, that would be amazing. But if not, if you showed up because you have an entirely different agenda, been there, done that, I'm not accusing you, like I've been in the same boat. Please hold those to the end so that we can get to the off topic questions like later on if we have time to do that. But all of your questions are important to me. If you're thinking it, somebody else is too. Okay, so disclaimer. Inevitably, you have heard of a lot of what I'm going to talk about now. And if that's the case, use it as your reminder to get out there and bring in those dollars for your organization. Every year, just so much money is given away. In the time we're going to talk today, there's going to be about 50 million given away. The nonprofit community is a community that it seems like everybody gets behind: corporations, private foundations, our government agencies, everybody. But there's some things that you can do yourselves within your own organization, even outside of those things, to generate income. So we're talking about more than just grants. Like, I am a grant writer. It is what I do. I love it. And I know that there's a lot, over $100 billion given in grants the last time we checked, which was like 2 years ago. But that's not the only source of funding. So I don't want you guys to sit and wait and wait and wait thinking you're waiting on the grant. There's things you can do in between. So I'm going to go get started right now and share my slides with you. And we're going to start with those things that we just automatically know and expect from nonprofits. And then we'll head on into some of the less common things that you can be doing relatively easily to get the money coming into your nonprofit. All right. So let me, hey, Pete, want to give me permission to share?
Let me see. How do I do that? Is it not automatic? What is that?
It's usually automatic.
Yeah,
It,
it's not working though, huh?
yeah, no, it's saying send a request. So how about I just sent a request?
See if that works.
Yeah, okay. Good deal. Got it. All right. Thank you.
Very good.
All right. And so, folks, we're going to go ahead and start from the beginning. Um, let's see here. Continue. Let's get us all set. All right. So this is 21 ways to fund your nonprofit. I'm just taking my video away. Oh, I'm sorry. I want my video here so you guys can see me. Get my life together. Okay. I think I got it. All right. 21 ways to fund your nonprofit. And let's go ahead and give another thanks to SCORE for the opportunity to even be able to come together today and share. And Pete did a great job introducing me. I am Cheryl Smith, and I'm going to just leave this slide in. I usually do that so that you know you're in good hands. All right, so are you in the right place? Let's just make sure we are. I do most of my work with nonprofits, but here lately I've been doing some work with the small business community. So if you're a small business and you're here today, this particular presentation really isn't for you. I mean, you can hang out with us. You might know a nonprofit. Maybe there's something that you can glean from it. But this presentation was written for the nonprofit community. So that is really what it's geared to. So if you are managing a small nonprofit, you are definitely in the right place. If you haven't reached your funding goals, so that's it. If you are managing a small nonprofit and you have not reached your funding goals, you're in the right place. All right. And if you would like to, obviously, you're in the right place. Now, it was important to me years ago, when I first created this, and I want to say it was maybe in 2017, so almost 10 years ago. It was because I realized that there was a lot of competition out there for dollars, not just within the nonprofit community, but you're competing with the same funds and you have the same dilemmas that small businesses do. And they're going to, and especially today, I'm noticing lots of small businesses entering the arena where traditionally you just saw nonprofits. So you've got a lot of competition, but you have the same stress factor. I don't like to use the word stress, but you have the same financial dilemmas. So you still need to come up with those dollars every single day. And if you're a nonprofit, part of those dollars have got to be public giving. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Okay. So we need you to be able to sustain yourself. And so I talked about our learning objectives. I need you to learn the 21 ways that you could fund your business and understand where you can go to get additional information. I'm going to be really transparent. It is so easy now to get this information. You can Google, that's one way. You can also go to AI. AI isn't 100% going to give you everything, and not always accurate, but you can still go there to get some of this information. So I'm going to give you some lead ins, and then it's up to you to then take that next step. And it's really important that you do that. So here's our 21 ways that we're going to talk about. And again, many of these you're familiar with. You probably are already doing some of these things. At least I hope you are. And this is just a reminder to you, a gentle reminder. Let's get out there and keep it moving. Let's keep the money coming in. All right. Or get the money coming in if that hasn't happened already. All right. So my thought for today is move with purpose like legends do, because that's what you are. You may not realize it because you're so busy in your everyday that you don't realize that you are creating a legacy. You may switch out board members, but you will forever and always be the founder. And the first decisions really do come from you, even the decisions of who's going to be on your board. So just be very aware that the things that you are doing today, they matter for today and they're going to matter for tomorrow too. Now, we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. And I promise to stop periodically to check in with you. But we're going to talk about those things that you already know, right? Board and board and founder funding. They call it bootstrapping. And according to the SBA, this is the primary way that even small businesses are funded. In the very beginning, you are literally coming out of your own pocket. And if you're doing that and you're thinking that something is wrong because it doesn't feel good, here to tell you, I'm going to normalize this. Nothing's wrong, but you're right. It doesn't feel good. Also, been there, done that. So, we don't want you to continue to do that for like on and on and on. But it is normal for you to spend the initial money. I tell folks, it's not a part of my slide, so I'm going to make sure I mention this. I tell folks in the very beginning when you're considering starting a nonprofit, decide where you want that initial money to come from and if you want that money to come back. Okay. And what I mean by that is, yes, you do have to come out of pocket. To my knowledge, I don't actually know of a grantor that's going to give you money to apply for your nonprofit status. I don't know anybody that will do that. There's grants out there to help you once you've started, but to actually pay for your IRS application, to pay for your incorporation or your articles to be filed, that's usually you. Okay. And so you'll decide, do you want to get this money back through a loan, meaning you get loaned the money to your nonprofit, or do you want to see it in other ways? Maybe you're going to give a gift to your nonprofit. Decide that up front, because if you're wanting a loan, you need a promissory note up front. So just remember that piece. I have to tell my clients that all the time. If you're going to want money back from a nonprofit, you got to set up the relationship up front. You can't do it after the fact, okay? But let's get into a little bit more of this founder and board funding and what it really means, okay? And so you have a board, or you're supposed to. Our IRS in most states require that you have at least three for most states, right? And so it's not just you. The second you've decided the board that you want and they have agreed to join, a part of that agreement is really supporting your organization, obviously with their time, but even with their money. Yeah, even with their money. And so the hazard is being too aggressive about how much that should be, right? That's a hazard for you because it's sometimes challenging just to get board members in the first place, right? But one of the things that has worked, at least for me, is to get the board members on board and, just really gung ho for the mission, wanting to get behind it, and then collectively decide what that looks like so that they're not being asked slash told. Instead, you've got buy-in because now you're talking about what it's going to cost to run the nonprofit and what share of that's going to come from the board, and have the board help you to make that decision and then make it firm, put it in the bylaws, put it in writing, right? And so those are some of the things that I want to share in terms of board funding. Some other things is, and I know I've already said this, but you can't have the board funding for like ever and always. I mean, you can always give, but you can't be the only funder. Let's put it that way. Your IRS, our IRS, they require that you bring in public funds if you're a public charity every year. every year. I don't care if you start bringing in like $1 billion, like some of these organizations do. Good 360, the Salvation Army, the United Way, Feeding America. They still have to bring in public dollars. It doesn't matter how big you get. And so I'm saying that to say, if your board and you are the only ones always giving, be careful about that because you could inadvertently have yourself reclassified as a private foundation. And we don't want that. All right. So making sure that you're out there in your public, bringing in those dollars. If you've got questions about that, please feel free to let me know. Okay. The last thing I want to say on this topic before we move on is be careful about commingling. And I'm sharing this because all of these today mostly came from my client base and the things that I see and I'm hearing. So that's the reason I rewrote this entire presentation for you all, because what I've been seeing and hearing is a lot of commingling is also happening, where we are treating our funds as though for the board or for the organization as though they're ours, and they're not. It's not your funds, right? And so we're making sure that the organization has its own bank account and it's spending from its own bank account, and that you are not spending from the organization's bank account unless it's a budgetary thing that you've got already approved by your board. So just making sure that we're not intermixing that money because it really isn't yours, although you founded the organization. Okay. I know that made sense. Let me know if there's questions behind that. All right. And there's some sources at the bottom of where you can go and Google to get more information. We're going to move on now to donor centric. We got to talk about it. I know so many folks are shy and you don't want to ask people. I've had people say, Cheryl, I don't like asking people for things. Then we are in the wrong sector. You know, we're the third sector, the nonprofits. And so this sector requires that you step outside of your comfort zone and you ask when it's called for. You receive whenever it's called for and necessary, because it's not about you. And I know it feels like it is because it's very personal, this mission is, but it really isn't about you. So we need to be setting our goals, making our plans, and figuring out who do we know. I call it phone a friend, okay? And that is where the board is tasked. And you can even, extend this out to, other folks in your organization. But the board primarily is tasked with finding at least 21 people that they know that they can ask for startup funds. Now, you can't ask for those startup funds until you have a budget. So that's my beware. Beware of what you're that beware that you are asking for very specific funding. So create your startup budget. Figure out what that looks like for you. Then you get on the phone with 21 people, hopefully that already know, like, and trust you, all right? And you're asking for a small gift to help launch the organization. I love, love, love this. And let me tell you, I have done it and it works, okay? So if you've got just you, then you're calling 21 people, because I know somebody's going to say, what if it's just me? Then you're calling 21 people, all right? If there's two of you, then you're calling 40, then there's going to be 42 people called, and so on. So getting yourself comfortable asking is going to be really important, especially in the beginning, because as I shared, it's not going to change. You're going to be asking for public dollars for the entire existence of your organization. All right. And there's some ideas and information you can get from my sources that I've got at the bottom of the screen. Hang tight. We're going to get past some of these real common ones, and then I'll take some questions, and then we'll get into some that are less common. Okay. Along the lines of donor centric, please don't forget the postcard. And I know that everybody is online, and I'm not saying don't do that. We'll get to that. But don't forget that people still like to hear from people. Direct mail still works. I launched my business with direct mail. When I left a large organization and decided it was time for me to help nonprofits across the country, this was back in 2017. The way I got started, the way I brought awareness to myself, the way I brought in clients was the postcard. I actually don't have in the one that I started with. I was going to put it on my desk, but I've got an example of just having something like really simple. Don't do one of those postcards where it is so busy that you can't even tell what's on the postcard. Less is more. People like white space. So don't forget that this is important. Now, how might you use it? Well, you can go several places. You can buy mailing lists. I'm one of those folks, especially in the beginning. I looked at personally appraiser websites. I went to For me, I went to the IRS's website. I found these lists and made my own list. I didn't spend anything to get my list, but there are lists that you can purchase that are going to be really refined to the target market that you are looking for. But I'm telling you, you don't necessarily have to do that. All right. Especially if you haven't really launched your program, or you have, but you've got a little time. Who has time? I know that was a bad thing to say, but you can spend a little bit of time creating your list and save yourself thousands of dollars, is what I'm saying. Create a short personal letter or a postcard asking for support. And here's where you can use the appraiser's website, at least how I used it. I went to the county appraiser's website, put in the zip codes that I was looking for. And then when you do that, most online appraiser websites will give you the whole neighborhood. Did y'all know that? I felt like I hit the lottery when I found that out. And so I was able to create just my mailing list from that. So you may decide that you want to have your awareness be brought to upper middle class neighborhoods, right? Or even just middle class neighborhoods, whatever, right? You want to make sure that people know that you're there and that you could use their support. And again, designing these cards or these letters are going to be very important to your world. Less is more. Give them enough to be interested. Make sure they understand how to contact you. Yes, I've actually received letters before where there's no like direct contact information. You don't want to do that. So this is donor centric, where you're looking for people who could be looking for you, but don't know that you exist. All right. So quality matters. Get the volume out there and making sure that you're not, there's no overkill. And I'm thinking that if that did not land well or make sense, please let me know and we're going to circle back to it. Okay. We got a few more of the common ones, and this is your donate button on your website. Please have one. Well, first, please have a website, okay? Because I know that everybody's doing things online. I mean, like seriously, I asked my 19-year-old the other day to go and get milk. We were out and he door dashed it. Just saying. So I know that we're all comfortable with being online, but one of the things that I'm finding with a lot of nonprofits is you don't all have donate now buttons. You don't have those buttons set up already. I can't figure out why. So I want to first make sure that you know that's necessary. You do want to give people the ability to donate to you from your website. And when they do, give them an opportunity for that monthly giving. So we're talking about, recurring giving here that a lot of us pass up on because we don't have our website set up to receive it. But, I know we're sometimes thinking, I'm saying this because I'm hearing this so often from my clients. They'll say, well, Cheryl, we can barely get our $10 in. We don't want to ask people for 25. And my thought is, why? I remember there was a helping the blind organization. I cannot place the name of it now, but amazing organization. That's not even my cause. Do I care about people who are living with a disability? I do. My cause is child welfare and domestic violence. But guess what I did? I gave to the organization on a recurring basis because the mission made sense. It was clean, and I felt like I could do my part. And I did it for years, you all. And so if I'm doing it, I know other people are doing it too. So never feel like you don't want to ask because people might not do it or you don't want to give them the opportunity. Give them the opportunity because in turn, it brings in opportunity for your organization. So ensure that your donate button is wet, first of all, on your website. And then secondly, when somebody clicks it, they have an opportunity to make a monthly donation. All right. Give people the opportunity to help you. All right. A little bit goes a long way. It really does. Yeah. And I like all of these I've got listed at the bottom. I think I'm more prone to Zephy in this case because I know that they won't take from your donation regardless. And so I like them. They're 100% free. I like Give Butter too. They're freemium. So I like them too. But Zephy does a really good job. All right, so I'm thinking that landed. If not, you will definitely let me know, right? Okay. So I think it's two more before I take questions. So we know about the community fundraisers, right? We know them. We see them out there, right? People washing cars or doing whatever it is, asking for money out there in their fundraising events. So we know they exist. But my question to you is, are you doing them? Okay. Did you have four fundraisers last year, every quarter? If you're brand new, are you planning them for this year? That's an easy way to bring in dollars. I look at fundraisers like playing checkers. Okay. It's not like playing chess. You don't have to wait forever and ever. You plan the fundraiser, you execute. Okay. And if you don't have them planned, please do. I think I've got fundraising for success, a training that's coming up. Join it if you haven't already. Alrighty. And so, community fundraisers, the biggest thing that I see, so this is what this comes from, is I see a lot of organizations will get out there and they'll do these things, but it ends up costing them more money than they anticipated. And the reason for that is because they didn't start with a budget. And so it's really important to have your budget of all of these costs. I know that again, I've done the walkathons, the micro races, super fun, but there is a process to it. You don't just jump out there with your bibs, your little numbers. You're going to have to more than likely invest something to get something. So think about what it is that you might need to give in order to make this a stellar event. Okay, for your organization, get your volunteers, make sure you have your permits. And this is if you're doing something like this, but whatever you're doing, making sure that you can legally do it in your city, and then making sure that you've got a budget that you live within. And then that budget is set up so that you bring in at least three times what you spent. If you're spending $25, then you need to be looking at 75 coming back. 100 coming back so that 75 is your profit. So I'm wanting you to please make sure of this. And yes, we want the visibility too. Yes, the awareness makes sense, but those dollars make sense as well. I don't want you to go backwards in the whole point of, what you were trying to do here. Lots of ideas. I don't think I kept them. I wish I had for this presentation, but if you go to classy.org and you look up top 100 fundraising ideas, there are so many ideas out there that you can do like in a weekend. I mean, literally, get something going for yourselves. And lastly, on this topic, when I used to chair a board, one of the things that I did at the end of the year, but that's okay, we're still kind of close, but at the end of the year is I would meet with our board and our fundraising committee and make sure that we had not just the game plan, but also the people. And so I would always ask, well, who's willing to take the lead in this quarter? So if you're running a board right now, I don't care if you have only a handful of folks, go ahead and get those commitments up front because most often people are going to keep those commitments for you, right? But get them up front so that you're not doing things in the 11th hour. All right. All right. So I think that many of you know about peer to peer, but before I do that, I do want to check in. It's been some time. Let me check in with you, then we're going to talk about peer to peer. All right, let's see. And you know what, Pete, I don't remember if I'm checking the Q&A or if you are. Let me see. I can go in. I don't have a problem doing it. All right, so I'm looking at Q&A right now, folks. This is where I'm looking for the questions and I only see one. Where are y'all at? I know you're in the room. I know you've got to have more questions than this. All right, this one comes from Anonymous who says, to be a 501c3 nonprofit organization, is there a requirement of how much of our yearly income is made of public dollars versus private individual donations? All right, so hey, Anonymous. And so the IRS says that well, it depends. I want to be able to tell you what they said, but I don't know what kind of nonprofit you are. There's different kinds of 501c3. So I'm going to assume that you're the standard 501c3 public charity. And in that case, the IRS says that at least a third of your income has to come in from public sources. So, of all the things that you are doing to generate revenue for your organization, a third of it needs to be from the public. And that is every year, always, for as long as your nonprofit's going to exist. Okay. All right. So there's one from Sharika. Hey, Sharika, classy.org is coming up as GoFundMe. It shouldn't. So go ahead and put in classy and then put in a space and then .org and see if that works. But no, classy.org is classy.org. So it should not be coming up as GoFundMe. But GoFundMe is actually going to be on one of my lists. So you can also get some information from there. So hang on, bookmark that one too. Hey, Sam. Sam says, my nonprofit is established as of 1/1/2026. Well, yay for you. Congratulations. I'm excited for you. What are the best types of fundraisers to start? It is a senior dog, wait, it is a senior dog-based dog rescue. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's really good stuff. And so I will tell you that I want you to also go to classy.org. And even better, if you all can't get to Classy, please, everybody, just do me a solid. If you have not already signed up for an AI platform, and that means a Chat GPT, a Claude, a Gemini, there's so many of them, Grok, DeepSeek. There's so many out there. Sam, go on over to any one of them. And I want you to take that exact statement that you wrote in here for me, and I want you to put it into AI. Can you please do that for me? And then come back into the either the chat or the Q&A and let us know what AI said. And so the reason I'm turning it back on you is because I know the information is out there and I really want y'all to get very confident going out there and getting it. My role here is to show you some things that you can do, but I want you to get out there and do it. I'm excited for what you might come up with too, Sam. And if I have time at the end, and I don't know that I will even take your question and put it in AI to see what it comes up with. I'd love to do that. All right. Okay, so let's take another question. And thank you, Sam, and congratulations to you. Absolutely. I love what you're doing. Sharika's back. Sharika, how do you separate your private business for nonprofit if they are both based in so that's the end of our Sharika, hold that. I'll come back to that, all right? Because that's an off topic, but it's valid. So I'll come back, okay? Don't let me forget. And if I get to the end and I haven't answered it, just put it back in there for me, okay? All right. Shalonda. Hey, Shalonda, donor centric 2021. What should we say and not say to our friends and business people? Let me tell you something, Shalonda. When I did it, I actually did it first with family. Yeah, I actually did. And I didn't just call, I called a Zoom meeting. I called them all in to say, this is what I need, this is what was going on. And I just told them about what it was I was doing, what our budget looked like. What difference we would make in the community. And so the reason I have listed at the very bottom of my screen is because when you start using some of these platforms, they're using AI too. It's going to fill in for you. So for everybody who's going to ask me for very oddly specific responses, I'm not giving those. What I am giving is where you find this information. And I can't wait to get to the end because if I have time, I will come back to one of these questions here y'all have asked me that's oddly specific, and I'll put it in AI for you. Okay. Because the information is there. All right. So you talk to them from your heart. And that's the one thing I want to tell you. Even when you do use AI, don't allow AI to start speaking in tones and ways that you wouldn't normally speak. Go ahead and write something out. Give them a snippet of how you write, how you speak, your thought process is, and then have it remember it because it can. You can ask it to keep this in memory, and it will. And that way it's now speaking like you. Alternatively, what you can do, I have a class on AI that you own, and this one is all live. It's not like screenshots and things like this. But what you could do with AI is just use what I use. I tell it, be authentic, be conversational, yet professional. These are not our friends. Be authentic, be conversational, right? But you're going to be professional because these are not our friends. Let them know who the audience is. The audience is going to be private foundations, stores. And if it is your friends and family, my audience is friends and family. Tell it that. Give your AI context so that it can work for you for real. You don't know. I can tell when somebody has said something AI that's been written by AI because I'm a writer and so I can see it. And so just making sure you add the authentic sentence, be authentic, right? Speak like I would, be conversational, be professional, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I think that should do it. And so yeah, so you're going to want to go in and get the information from if I were in your shoes, give context about what your organization does, give it to the AI, and then see what it brings up. And then iterate because inevitably it's going to say things that are not true. I read that 80% of what AI is given out is 80% is true, the other 20% isn't. It's the 20% that concerns me. All right. What do you tell business people or friends and business people? And I've got a class for grant writing too, Shalonda, that you might join. Let's see. Tila? Tila says for the call 21 people, does the ask need to be by phone or is there a key? Yeah. And so, Talia, and I may be pronouncing your name incorrectly, and I'm so sorry if I did. My personal ask was on Zoom, but I've got some things that I'm going to share with you right now about phone because I have done this with groups. But my personal ask when I was starting my business and when I was starting my nonprofit, that came from that was on Zoom because I like the personal touch of it. But when we start talking about peer to peer, which is coming up now next, we're going to talk about phone. Okay. So you can do whatever makes you feel comfortable. If there are 21 people that you know, I would send a phone. I probably would. I would send phone because here's the thing. I remember like I can not forget. I've got nieces and nephews who send me on a regular basis, and I know y'all do too. They'll say, "Hey, Auntie, I need this for my school. We need that for our school." And they'll send me the link. And from my phone, I can donate. And so I do think it's useful. And so, but if it's 21 people that I already know and they already know me, I would absolutely use my phone unless that makes you uncomfortable. So I would just say personal judgment, but I would probably use my phone if I'm going to call 21 back to back people. When I did my business, I used Zoom. But in today's environment, everybody's using phones. So use the phone. I think I probably confused everybody. Use what works best for you. I used Zoom. Phone also works. I hope that helps. Hope that helps. We're going to talk about phone in just a second anyway. All right. So, Avita Ruffin. Hi, Avita. Avita's question, and I'm in Q&A. What is the best language to use to ask for funds to get started? My nonprofit promotes mental health awareness, self-care, and pursuit. Okay. So the purpose of this conversation is to bring awareness to what's out there. I have so many workshops where I go into the weeds and it's a show me how. This is a show me what. And so this conversation, because I've got 21 to get to, isn't a show me how, folks. It is this is what's out there and I can show you where to go get more information. I will make this promise to you. If you join the workshops on Show Me How, I show you how. Those workshops are grant writing workshops, 2-page proposal workshops, anything having to do with you physically writing something out, because I'm a writer and it's what I love to do. Those are the show me hows, all right? But this one is show me where. So I'm showing you where, and that's the reason I'm deferring to AI, because once I show you where, truly, I want you all to go to AI and use it as your tool, use it as your friend, okay? And it's going to give you that best language. And I'm hoping that this makes sense. I'm going to take another one or two, then we're going to get back on it because I'm thinking what we could do is get through our show me where. And if I have time at the end, I am so on board with showing you how. Okay. But let's get through the show me where's first. All right. Let's get to Malik. Hey, Malik, can a nonprofit issue stocks and debt securities? That's not my area. So I'm really not sure if they can. I can tell you that a nonprofit can, well, I guess they can. You can invest. I don't know about issuing stocks because that is really outside of my zone. But I do know that the nonprofit public charity, not private foundations, when you do invest, that income is interest free. You don't have to pay anything on it. So that's a really good thing. So lots of nonprofits out there are getting involved with DAFs, donor advised funds, and endowments and things like that. That's not my area. So I won't be talking about things that's not in my bucket. But I'm thinking that the answer to that may be yes. Dig into that with people who do that, though, Malik. Okay. I can tell you that it's a great opportunity if you're in a position to invest, and I guess that you should, but I'm just not an investor. So that's not for me to answer. Michael, I'm interested in potentially starting a nonprofit physical therapy clinic. Yay. Would paid patient services qualify toward the 1/3 public funding? Mm, no, it's not. And we're going to talk about that, Michael. Your paid services are earned income, and that is different than the 1/3 public funds. Your 1/3 would be like grants your fundraisers, some of the things that we've talked about so far. Government, the government's also included in that one third, thank goodness. So that's what they mean when you're bringing in other people's dollars, where there is no benefit to that person other than helping you move forward. Those are public dollars. What you're talking about here is earned income, and we're going to get to that too. All right. So, Avita, okay. You're answering. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad. Okay, great news. Where can I get a list of your courses and dates offered? Hey, Robin, you can get that from going to score.org. If you go to score.org and put in my name in the search queue, Cheryl Smith, you are going to have a plethora of courses. I take off every December and come back in January. So you're my second training for the year. And so I'm saying that to say I've got training scheduled all the way through November of this year. And grant writing is on a lot of chapter agendas. So if you really want to learn, I mean, like really, then you'll take that class. I just did one with another chapter, and we spent most of our time live. So, because that will live on Zoom showing you how. That is actually my preference. But we're on method 6. I've got 21 to go. So I'm probably going to just keep going right now. And then I'll circle back when I can. Y'all are great. And let me just say, even if I didn't answer your question in the way that you wanted me to, please keep asking. Okay. If you're thinking that somebody else is, and shoot your shot, you don't know which one's going to go through and get entirely answered. If I can answer it and it's appropriate for this session, I'm going to do it. All right. So please don't stop the questions. I love the questions. I love y'all too. So, all right, let's keep moving. All right. I'm going to close out my Q&A right now, and we're going to keep going with peer to peer. Okay. And so peer to peer, and this is where earlier I was like, oh, well, use the phone, don't use the phone. I'm trying to make sure that I'm like not giving away too much, but giving you what you need. And so I love peer to peer because I mentioned I had a 19-year-old, right? And so everything they do is on phones. So at one point, I had him curate this list for me from LinkedIn, right, of who I could reach out to immediately. And I loved it. And so you reach out immediately to potential supporters, they can respond immediately. So that's not peer to peer. That's just the way you can use your phone. Okay. Peer to peer is where you almost go into competition mode, right? And so you've got other people fundraising for you. It's just the absolute best. When we did it, we gamified it. So we would have our volunteers all, get out there and we say, okay, hey, this is the quarter competition. And if you can get X number of folks signed up or X number of people to donate, then you get recognized, right? Because you can't pay volunteers, but you get recognized. And so we would do those kinds of things, but you don't have to do it just with your volunteers. You can create a gamification system or a peer-to-peer with anybody. You could do that with your family, right? I know family can't all sit on your board, but they sure can help you fundraise. And so your personal networks, the people that you serve, like whoever it is that you are supporting that's benefiting from your program, get them involved in peer to peer. Inevitably, somebody knows somebody that you don't, right? And so getting a campaign going, creating that, you can create that from Zeffy, from GiveButter, GoFundMe. Literally, you can Google right now peer-to-peer campaigns or fundraising, and you're going to have so many different things come up in your return. So you can go to these websites, and somebody asked me, well, tell me exactly what to say or what's the wording. You can get the wording from a lot of these sites right there because this is they want your business. So they're going to have the wording for you, right? And so you go and you create it, making sure that you're aware that it's going to be on a phone. So you don't want these long-winded dissertations. You want something that's quick and easy to read, where people, in a huge, very visible button, making it easy for your donors to just see it, get behind it, and give. Can y'all picture that? They see it, it resonates with them. They want to get behind it and they give. It's that simple. All right. And so, gosh, there's so many great ones. There was a website, I can't recall the name, but you can Google this: best peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns. Okay. Google best peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns. So now you're not just looking at platforms where you can get engaged with peer-to-peer, where they actually, have everybody gets their another piece of peer-to-peer is everybody has their own little micro web page, right? So you can kind of track like the kinds of donations and things that are coming in. Well, if you were to go to best peer-to-peer fundraising and you Googled that, you're going to have a lot of peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns that's going to really get your juices flowing for what you can do for your own nonprofit. I just think that it's super cool, but it's a way that you can bring in those dollars. All right. So in kind spaces, I'm sharing a lot of the things that I did because it helped me and it saves so much money. So when I first got started, I didn't have an office. I don't have one now, but that's by choice. I didn't have one in the beginning because I couldn't afford to get the office. Yeah, because the office that I wanted and needed a lot of training space, not the ones that are like 1,500, 2,000. I'm talking I needed space. So what I did was I partnered with an organization for the space, right? I did that. I also went to the government. I went to my local government. Now I'm in Atlanta, but I've tested this out with different states. And so most local governments will offer their space. I don't know if y'all know that, but they will. And they will offer it either free or low cost as long as whatever you're doing, you're not charging. And that was the big thing. When I signed my agreements for space, it was I signed the agreement, but I also agreed that my services were social, community based, that I would not be charging the community. In turn, I could use the space. So I love community spaces for that reason. And yeah, and I'm thinking that this will help you. And how does it help you fund your nonprofit? Here's how. If you're doing something that requires space, so let's say that you are a giveaway, right? Whatever it is you're doing, it could be a fundraiser, a giveaway, a workshop, informational, whatever it is that you need that space for is going to bring awareness to you. You can use that awareness on your website to leverage it to get funding. But also, it has saved you funding. Remember, I told you the space I needed back then was like $3,400 a month. I just wasn't going to spend that at the time. I just wasn't going to do it. And so I instead got it, I went around the way and got it a different way. Okay. And so think about it. If you're having to spend money every single month on space, but now you can get it in kind, that has now saved you money and you can use those dollars somewhere else. Okay. And so I mentioned government, but I know library. Let me see. Have I done library? Yep, I sure have. So I've been in community centers, I've been in libraries, courts. Yes. I don't know if y'all know that, but if you're doing something for the court, you can usually get some space. I have been in Department of Labor. I mean, I've been in a lot of places. Legal places, good spaces. But so get yourself out there. So there's churches. One of my clients that I'm, well, several actually of my clients that I work with right now, they actually utilize church space. Now, some of them, one utilizes church space for $1 a year. The other does pay a nominal fee. I've got one that is just absolutely free. They can use it on the weekends. And so I'm going into the weeds here, but I'm saying to you, we have got faith-based organizations, we have government organizations, we have opportunity in our communities if you don't have the space. All right. So you can go out and get yourself some space. There are even some spaces, and I've had one client get a huge, I mean, it was like a huge, almost warehouse space that he turned into like little cubicles for his offices. And he negotiated a contract where the first 6 months was free, second 6 months was a nominal fee. He didn't build out into to the actual amount for years. And I'm just thinking, I recall working when I worked for a large nonprofit, we actually did the same thing. I negotiated our contract with our landlord to give us our space like half off for the first 6 months. So there are ways that you can save on your budget so that you can use your limited resources toward moving that mission forward in other ways. And so don't sleep on in-kind spaces. Okay, crowdfunding. We hinted at it, but we didn't really like go into it. So crowdfunding is another way. This is our method 8. And so with crowdfunding, you do need these three things that you see on my screen. So I know it's a funny little picture, but it's true. You are going to need an idea, something that you need funding for, all right? Your ask. You're going to need a crowd. that's willing to give. So you're going to need those things. You need a platform too. So that's where the crowd comes from. And so you are going to need these three things. But when you have these in place, you open yourself up to opportunity for lots of people, even those that you didn't know, to give to you. It's an emotional appeal, it's a clean appeal. It's not convoluted with all the things that your nonprofit needs. It is centrally focused on a need. You've got a campaign, it runs for however long you think it needs to run, a month, 6 weeks, whatever that is. When that campaign is done, if you're working with the platform, then they're going to release your funds. Okay. I love donation based. There's different kinds of crowdfunding. I love donation based crowdfunding because donation based, they're not going to take your money. They may charge you a platform fee. That's usually around 3%. There are some that are, and I'm surprised I don't have it here, that are 100% free, like back to my good old faithful Zephy, they're 100% free. Give Butter is free in freemium if you allow them to ask your donors to cover like the platform fees and things like that. GoFundMe charity, they're not free. Well, I mean, they have a fee based to the platform. And so I've got a listing of a lot of them. I realize that these change every single probably day, but these are the ones that I have that I can offer today. Talk to me again in 6 months. This might look different. But these are some of the donation based crowdfunding platforms that you could go to. And by the way, for everybody that was asking me to give them like verbiage for their ask, these folks here, this is what they do. So if you were to go to a Fundly, right? If you go to Mighty Cause, if you go to Indiegogo, if you go to some of these, they're going to have templates for you. I mentioned Zephy, yeah, they're here too, second row. They also have templates, but I do know that many of them now, even without their templates, if you go in and tell them, because they're all using AI, see, they're using AI too. If you go in and you tell them, well, listen, I am a homeless shelter and we're needing to purchase new beds or whatever it is your thing is, and the AI for these platforms will write your ask. They will write your campaign for you. I love it. I've tested it. They do a very good job. So, don't just rely on your brain. Go ahead and get the creative thinking of some of these AI systems that are built in because, again, they want your business. They're going to get funded when you get funded. They're not taking from the 100,000 that you necessarily that you earned, but they're going to charge you a platform fee. So indirectly, I guess they do, unless they're like a Zephy or a Give Butter. But anyway, these are some platforms that you can go to. They are going to offer you a wealth of tools to help you to get going. I love, love, love crowdfunding because you do not pay back donor-based crowdfunding. And so this has got to be on your list of how you fund your nonprofit. All right, we're going to get into grants now. After grants, I'll take another pause. We're talking about community grants first, community foundation grants first, because if you are new, and many of you are, your first stop with grants isn't necessarily a database. Your first stop is your community foundation, because these are organizations that are in your geographic area and they are tasked with improving their area. They are also public charities. They're a different kind of public charity, but they are 501(c)(3). And what I've learned, there's over, okay, there used to be around 800. It's almost 1,000 now. I've got to go back. It's almost 1,000 community foundations across our country. Every state, every state has community foundations, all of them. And within the state, there's several. Okay. I think the state with the most is, believe it or not, I think it's like Indiana, go figure, but also like California and Texas. But every state has community foundations. So you'll find yours and you'll work with them because most often, I want to say at least 90% of them will offer grants. And what I love about their grants is that it's narrowly focused to you, to the organization that's in their territory. If you're in their state but not in their territory, you're not eligible. And so you're going to significantly reduce competition by working with your community foundation. So that would be my first step if I were you and you're interested in grants. And also, the turnaround time on those foundation grants seem to be a little bit faster than going through the traditional private foundation. So I like community foundations for that reason. All right. So then there are city and county grants. All right. So we can't rule those out. They're not as frequent as like community foundation and some of the other ones, but they do exist. Okay. And so what you do is you identify who's in your neck of the woods, right? What city are you in? What region? If you're in Louisiana, what parish are you in, right? What county are you in? Figure out who your local government is, all right? And then go to their website. I have found that local governments are usually upfront with their funding opportunities. They don't make you like dig and dig forever for what grants are available through the city or your county. It's usually very visible on their website. They, I have found, love to also fund pilots, right? So oftentimes, we've gotten lots of folks funded, at least through the county, where it's going to serve their constituents, right? It's going to serve the county well, and it is something that is reasonable in terms of what you're asking for, in terms of the grant, and your services make sense. So I'm saying this to say pilots also get funded at the local level. So if you're super duper new and you haven't actually all the data that you need, try your local government, okay? And that's not to say that that you wouldn't come across a grant from your local government where they're asking for more. So for instance, some of our local governments, yes, they'll take pilots, but sometimes they'll say, this one's for the seasoned nonprofit and we're looking for audited financials. In that case, that's not you. Okay. So just be on the lookout for it. Sign up for your city's list serve. Don't forget your mayor's office. I put that in last minute because I almost forgot to tell y'all, don't forget. I can't even make some of this stuff up, y'all. I wouldn't be able to remember it with all the things in my brain. I've had organizations literally go to their mayor's office at the end of the year and get like checks, okay? Have checks cut. One of the largest an organization got was 50,000. Okay. And so don't rule out your local government because they also have money. All right. So get to know them and have them get to know you too. There is also corporate good neighbor grants. All right. And so you've got corporations out there. I should have swapped this out for like a Kroger because Kroger is just notorious for their community support. Okay. They do a really, really good job. I will say Publix too. Like that's my store. I love them. But yeah. So Publix, the Krogers of the world, the Costco's, even the Walmarts of the world. There are corporations out there that, yes, they will absolutely give these good neighbor grants. Also, banks, nearby banks, there are so many banks that will give to you. I've had organizations apply to bank foundations because a lot of the banks will have a foundation like Wells Fargo Foundation, Truist Foundation, Bank of America, the foundation. All right. I've had organizations be denied from the foundation, walk right into the bank, right, and get themselves a grant. All right, because the banks, these are corporations, not the foundation, and they can spend their money any way they want to. Not only do they get money, I've worked with organizations where a lot of our fundraisers were supported through volunteers from these corporations as well. They'll send out their employees, and that happens often with banks. Going back to some of the grocery stores, though, we know that most grocery stores are going to give for the usual suspect causes, right? Poverty alleviation, food insecurity, youth and education. So I would definitely, and more, and more. If this isn't you all, they give for more. But I would definitely look at my local corporate, the companies in my area. There was somebody that gave me a query about a dog rescue. Go to PetGo, PetSmart, some of those, right? I don't actually have a dog. I'm a dog liker. All right. So, but anyway, utilize these community stores, even the mom pop stores that are out there, right? So looking for grants out there, it's right, they're right in your back pocket. I have walked into Panera. You can go into Barnes and Noble. You can go into, believe it or not, Hooters. They're known for their community grants, all right? And so I want you to be thinking about some of these corporations that's in your area already. So y'all don't inbox me and say, which ones? Look around when you are coming home. Who are you passing? These are local corporations that If asked, would give. There was a survey or something that had come out a year or so back where corporations said the number one reason they don't give is they're not asked. Not the big ones, the smaller ones. They're not asked. Ask, okay? Develop these relationships. But yeah, corporate giving, good neighbor grants. You can Google that too. Corporate good neighbor grants and see who might be in your area. Are we still? Yeah, we're still on grants. Now we're talking about private foundation grants. These are the big ones here. So usually when we're talking private foundation, we are looking, and I don't know if I've got a slide for this, but we're looking at you. I want you to think Bill and Melinda Gates. I want you to think of Mellon Corporation. I want you to be thinking of Ford Family Foundation. I want you to be thinking about these big ones. But then I also don't want you to negate these super duper small ones that you might not know about unless you go to a database. Okay. Private foundations are 501(c)(3) organizations that are set up differently than public charities. They're set up to support the cause that they believe in, but also to support the public charity. So private foundations, they have a requirement from the IRS to give. They do. They have to give at least a minimum 5% of their net adjusted gross revenue from investments the previous year. And if we think about what we're really saying here, 5% from investments, I don't know about you all, but I look at IRS 990 PFs on a daily basis. And sometimes I have come across foundations that have 100 pages of investments. That's all they do is invest. Now, I mentioned earlier, that's not my thing. I don't do it, and I don't, but I see it. I'm able to see it and understand it. They're bringing in a lot of dollars and they're required by the IRS to give to you. So, that being said, I do need to tell you that the majority of private foundations are not huge like we think of. The majority of them, they even if they're giving away millions and millions of dollars, the majority are operated by a small little group. And I show this picture here to show you that you might be thinking one thing about how your grants get reviewed. And in reality, it's a small group. They will come together, usually during their board meeting, and they will evaluate these opportunities for giving and make a good decision. Sometimes it doesn't even go through a board meeting. Sometimes there's a committee that's already set aside. And when these applications come in, they've got like the gatekeeper to make sure that you follow guidelines and directions. And it gets to the reviewing committee. They review them and they respond a little quicker than the board meeting. But I'm saying this to say these are just people, just like you and me. All right. And so when you are writing your grant applications, I would much rather you be authentic than try to use these elaborate sentence structures that AI will try to give you or that you've seen somewhere. These foundations can also know that you're using AI, and then you don't want them questioning whether or not what you're saying is true because they know that AI can hallucinate. So remember that these are real people. So I want you to be a real person too. Okay. Be authentic, respond to the questions. Don't go at sharing things that they did not ask for. They are trying to make really good decisions. They don't have a lot of time. I should have shown a picture with a stack of applications. They're reviewing like hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on the organization. And they've got to get to the point really quickly. So if you don't get to the point, your application is going to be bypassed. And how I know this, I used to be a reviewer. Okay. And so I remember going through applications that I'm reading. I ask, a certain question and they're telling me everything else, truly avoiding the question or not understanding what I've asked. And in that case, I've got to give 0 points and move on to the next. And so just making sure that you know these things, I'm trying to give you like the insider's view because I want you all to be okay out there. And so be yourselves, tell your truth. If you need AI to help you do that, fine. But just making sure that you are iterating, you're massaging that response so that it reflects you and that you are speaking in plain language because guess what? These are plain folks. So let me give you another tip. When I'm in AI, if I am writing, I'm going to ask AI to speak in plain language. Plain language. Plain and simple. I'm thinking this landed, it makes sense. So, where do you find these amazing opportunities? databases. I may tell you to go Google this or that for these other opportunities, but when it comes to private foundations, too many of them don't have websites. The only way you're going to know of them is by going through IRS records, which I do on a regular basis. I wouldn't ask anybody to do that. Go to a database because in a database, you can actually go and put in your keyword. We help animals, we help children, we help veterans, whatever it is you're doing. And then a list of foundations that serve or give in your area will come up for what it is that you do. Use a database. Okay, that's enough here. I'm sure I might get more questions on that one. And here's an example. I thought I had this in there of private foundations. And so, I mean, they just run the gamut. And this by no means is an inclusive list. So, private foundations in our country, there's about 150,000 of them. So, there's a lot of private foundations. Meanwhile, there's about 1.5 public charities, 1.5 million public charities. So, there's a lot of competition out there. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to sponsorships. I'm going to get us all the way to maybe method 16 or so and see if we have questions, and then I'll jump back in. So, business sponsorships. As you're driving home today, please look around, okay? Because those are your sponsors. I know that you all have been to kids sports events. I mean, even if you don't have kids, who hasn't seen a softball, baseball, whatever game, and you see those banners and it's always the local business, right? Always. And you wonder, how do these schools get these businesses? They went out and got them. They're partners. They went and they talked to them. I've done that. It's not hard. You make sure that you are either planning in advance. I actually didn't. So I'm going to tell you the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to send out a letter, make a phone call, schedule a meeting, and then go out and see that business owner. I walked in on a day where I knew this particular business would be not have so much traffic and was able to meet a manager. And actually, I've done this so many times, y'all, and get sponsored that way. I mean, the only one I'm going to share that's because it's probably going to be relevant to your area too. Everybody has heard of Chick-fil-A. I've even done that there. I've walked in. Hey, we have got a reading literacy program. It's a huge event. We're going to have, this was true. We're going to have 200 children show up and we're going to read stories and we've got volunteers. And we just realized that we need food and stuff. I went to the local Chick-fil-A. I didn't go to one that was in my neighborhood and then meanwhile the event was somewhere else. I went to where the event was going to be because they knew that if they helped us, they would then get that business and they did, right? And they got the acknowledgement and everything else. I'm just mentioning them, but I have done it many other places, many other times. And I'm saying this to you to say, please just take a chance on this. All right. The sponsorships are out there. Yes, you can apply for the huge ones. You can apply for the Coca-Colas of the world. But I'm saying to you, if you're driving home, you're missing some really great opportunities because on your drive home, I don't care if it's a restaurant, a grocery store, a local business, a clothing place, doesn't matter. Those are opportunities for you to make yourself a new friend and get something that your organization is doing sponsored. Okay. And I know it works. I'm not just telling you guys things in theory. I have been in this arena for over 25 years. There's very little I haven't done. I haven't invested, but I've done a whole lot of other things. So I want you guys to get out there and get your sponsorships because that's how you're going to fund a lot of your programs. I have the Shareway there too, because that just really became very notable during COVID when people couldn't get out there and just make that new friend face to face. They online, if you go to the Shareway and you Google it, you're able to sign up and you can get your event sponsored by the thousands of corporations that they have already partnered with. And they're like your middleman. You fill out a very small application. And I mean, it is like brief application. And you tell the funders what it is you're looking for. And then you wait. And I have not had anybody come back to me and say they have not been funded by the Shareway who's actually tried and put their event there. I've got people, as a matter of fact, coming back with some amazing stories like this funder gave us more than we needed, or this funder called me to say, hey, do you have all the gift certificates you need and that kind of thing. And so it's some great corporations out there. So go out there and get them. And then Chambers, I partner with Chambers. I love the Chamber of Commerce. If you have not partnered with your chamber, you should. So you want to make sure that you are a member, even if you're a nonprofit, because I remember going before when you're new, they give you the floor. Y'all know that for those of you who are already members, and they give you the floor to be able to share who you are and what you do. And then I just recall having so many people behind just lined up to say, "Gosh, I didn't even know you were in the community. It's so nice to meet you. And what is it that your organization needs? I'm sure that we can help you." It was the most, it's just amazing. And then besides that, there's a lot of other businesses who might not be there present on the day that you are promoting yourself that you can still reach out to, right? So there's so many benefits. The Grantsmanship Center, I have them listed because if you go to the Grantsmanship Center website, under state resources, they have a link for corporations, the top giving corporations in every state. And I love that they have done that. And so those corporations are giving corporations. I don't have it here. I'm missing out on some of my juicy nuggets, but Double the Donation is also another good one to find sponsorships. So Double the Donation is a great platform to look at as well. And so that's sponsorships. And then I decided to add this one because this one's often missed, you all. Employer matching gifts. This is where you really will go to like a Double the Donation because they've got like, a lot of employers that have already said, hey, we match, that kind of thing. But let me assure you, that's not even a micro, that's nothing compared to the number of employers that actually do match. I talk to folks on a regular basis and I'll say, well, who do you work for? And, making all of my clients, well, who do you work for? To make sure whoever you work for, go and ask them, go ask HR if they match. Most of them do, and you don't know it, which means that if you can find whoever wants to give to you, whoever, individual contributions, whoever wants to give to you, ask them where they work, because if they can if they're working for an employer that matches the gift, now we're talking. Now you just turned $100 gift into 200, $1,000 gift into 2,000. Y'all see where I'm going with that? We want to get these matches as often as we can, and the main reason we don't get them is because we don't ask these questions, and we need to do that. This is how you bring in extra money. You've already got the buy-in from the potential donor. Now, all they need to do is go to their employer to say, hey, listen, I care about this organization and their mission, and I am giving. Can you match it? And here's the thing, people love to do that because when they get an opportunity to go and tell somebody else that they're giving, it makes them there's something in their spirit that starts to just inflate, and that's a good thing. Okay, so giving and making sure you are talking to your donors, helping them understand how to match. You might even put it on your website. You are welcome right now to screenshot, because I created that with AI, right? So it's mine now, it's yours. You're welcome to go ahead and screenshot that and use that as an example on your website of how people can give, right? So you want everybody that's considering giving to you to first go ask their employer if they match. All right. We want those dollars in. Okay. We're going to talk about workplace giving. We're getting through it. Workplace giving programs. And so this is a little bit different. A match could be included, but it's everything. These workplace giving. When I talked to you earlier about Hooters, I think I mentioned Barnes and Noble. Oh, there's just a lot of them. Okay, there's a lot of them out there that won't give unless Enterprise Holdings is another one. I love Enterprise Holdings, by the way. So if you know somebody from Enterprise, definitely go and ask them about giving. But a lot of these companies will only give if their employees like are involved, right? So they care about what their employees care about. And so figuring out like how you can leverage this. So we talked about matches, but there's also donations through payroll. You've heard of the United Way workplace campaign. So you will become a partner of the United Way so that when they are sending out their, those little campaign slips they send out, hey, you can give $1, $2, 2,000, whatever, that you're included in that. All right. But also workplace giving can include volunteers. Because they can send their volunteers out for the day. I've had that. So, I've saved so much time and energy and resource money having volunteers from corporations to come out. So, workplace giving as a whole, figure out who's in your area, what they're willing to do. Go to their website first to see, do they already have corporate social responsibility, and see what they're willing to do. And then sometimes you can just ask, I noticed that you didn't have employee volunteers. Is that something that your company's willing to do? Most of them will say, absolutely. Tell us when and where. Okay. So I want you to utilize some of these avenues, but this is method number 15 with workplace giving. I'm going to hustle a little bit because of my time, but we're getting into the ones that are not as common. I love local business gift bags. Okay. So if you guys haven't started this, please do. You find a restaurant or a shop, and it doesn't have to be a restaurant. We've done this with stores, okay, where stores will agree to give back a certain percentage for from that day's sale. So the objective here is it is win-win, okay? So you're going to be advertising this event on your social media, on your platforms with the people that you know, because you're driving business to the local restaurant or store. But in turn, whatever they bring in for that day, your nonprofit takes a percentage of that, okay? And isn't I mean, I just love that. So I want you to consider who is in your zone as you're driving home, which restaurant, especially if you're going to a restaurant every single, week and you frequent the same one, that's your partner, right? I know some of you spend so much money in these restaurants. Allow them to give back to you too. Introduce yourself now as not just their consumer or their customer, but introduce yourself as the nonprofit founder or executive director or leader that you are, so that you can get some of these opportunities going for your nonprofit. I love these so much, and that's another benefit of being a part of the chamber, because a lot of these are brick and mortar businesses that will be willing to do this for you too. Lots of opportunity. I could go on and on. Every one of these methods, you all have questions. I can tell you every one of these methods. I just want to just spend the whole hour on just the method because I love them so much. But anyway, so this is method number 16. Method number 17, I promised to pause, but I'm going to pause to see if we've got like one or two questions, because I'm a promise keeper. But then I'm going to get right back in it because I want to finish this up on time. So I'm going to go look at some questions. I'm going to pick and choose, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm going to do that. And then I'll come back if I have time. Let's see. Ronaldo, Rinaldi. Hey, Rinaldi says, when sending out your direct mail campaign and creating your list, did you focus on people who needed your services, donors, or funding? All right. So transparently, when I sent out my list, so two different lists I had, and I think I mentioned that one was from the IRS, and then one was from the local county appraisal's office, because I got the addresses. When I did the county appraisal, I was just looking for high net worth individuals, and I shot my shot, and we did bring in money. So that's what I was looking for. When I used the IRS, that was different. IRS, it was narrowly focused on just the segment that I was looking for, because with the IRS data, I was looking for nonprofits. And so it helped me to do that very easily and efficiently. So on the one hand, it was just high net worth. On the other hand, it was narrow in focus. I will say that if you, the one thing that the appraisal site can't do is it's not going to be able to narrow your focus. It can tell you if you've got a zip code, who all lives in this zip code, but not what their buying and spending habits or cost areas are. In that case, you would need to purchase a list. I hope that answers that question. And thank you for that. Very, very good question. Denisha, hey, Denisha. What is the best strategy for implementing these? My nonprofit will be running for 1 year in May. Yay! Should we trial each funding opportunity? I wouldn't. That can be a little bit much. I shouldn't have said I wouldn't. It's really up to you, Denisha. I mean, I said I wouldn't because I don't want you to be overwhelmed. There's a lot of them. What you might do instead is take this presentation to your board and figure out where you want to start this year. Find something that you haven't done that you can introduce, and then inevitably there are things on this list you are already doing. And in that case, just refine those things, fine tune those things, but pick out like one or two. If you think you can handle every quarter, do that. But in my brain, I said I wouldn't, because my day, like I can imagine most of your day, is so busy. I would probably find something that I know that we can do that's reasonable and feasible for our budget and for our capacity in terms of our staff. And and then that's what I would focus on. Would I get to all of these things? I probably wouldn't, because all of these things might not apply to everything that you're doing. So I would say get the list, get to the board, figure out what makes sense, figure out what you're already doing, refine the things you're already doing, and then maybe test out one or two new things. That's what I would do. That was a great question. And thank you so much for asking. Y'all's questions are amazing. I love y'all so much. All right. So, Sharika, this has worked for me in the past with my local supermarket with beauty supply. I'm telling you, it's for real. Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to keep going. All right. So, I'm going to keep going because we've got like 10 minutes. Wait, Carol says, go ahead. Keep going, please. All right, Carl, I will. But I just saw Whitney and she has like a question. And this is the last one. Do you have a preferred database to use for finding the private foundations? I have a lot. I've used probably all of them. Right now, I'm using, which one am I using now? Grant Station. So I've used them all. I've used Instrumental. They're really great. I've used Foundation Center, also great. Am using Grant Station, Grant Gopher, grantmakers.io. There's a lot of them out there. You can Google top grant grant databases. So top grant databases. But I think right now I'm like three. Grant Station is one of them. I like Grant Station a lot. All right, so now we're going to get back. Here comes some more of this one's fee for services. This is our method 17. And so I like fee for services because you charge for whatever you're doing. I mean, whether it's a workshop, in this case, I've got a child care program. And so these are mandatory fees. Everybody gets the fee, right? You can, go on a sliding scale if somebody can't afford a fee. Somebody mentioned therapy or consulting. That's a fee. That's a fee for service. And so whatever it is that you do well, that you're an expert in, that you can codify and sell, or offer services or product within your mission, do that thing, right? Do it. And so this is fee for services method 17. And so again, that's what I meant by some of these are no brainers and you already are doing some measure of them. Just go back and refine them, get more information, and just really like up the game on some of the things that really does work for your organization, but maybe you need to do a little more of it. I would be cognizant of the IRS's guidelines on unrelated business income. And I do have to say that because with fee for services, it doesn't mean that you can just go start anything and start bringing in fees from some commercial business. The IRS has regulations on that. So the IRS says if you're a public charity, then you can charge, engage in fee for service work and not be taxed on it, as long as it is not something that you're doing on a regular basis that is commercial type business for revenue that doesn't align with your mission. If that's the case, that's not going to be okay. The IRS needs whatever you're doing on a regular basis for income to be aligned with your mission. If not, then you're going to face unrelated business income taxes. And if you continue to do things that's not related to your mission, and then eventually you'll be in trouble with the IRS, maybe even revoked your status. All right, fiscal sponsorship is number 18. And so with fiscal sponsorship, if you haven't started your nonprofit or if you are super duper new and you feel like you benefit from having a larger organization just kind of be the backbone for the grant, then you might consider a fiscal sponsor. I know organizations that have been around, like I'm working with a few right now, and they bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they are tax exempt themselves, but they work with fiscal sponsors because they get these larger organizations that are already very established 501c3 public charities. These are not private foundations. So 501c3 public charities that are well seasoned and established, and they get them to, sponsor or hold the grant for them as a fiscal sponsor so that they can get the money they need for their community. A lot of organizations do this, even if they're already 501c3, but it works really, well when you're not. I remember not being a 501c3 and having to get a sponsor, right, to execute my program. I was at one point, I'm a teacher, so I was out in the communities I was teaching, right? And so we got a sponsor for that. And so how that works is you find a 501c3 public charity. If it's a formal sponsorship, you're going to apply. That's usually like $100 or $200 to apply. And then once they agree that this is a good arrangement for them too, you will sign a fiscal sponsorship agreement. And usually they're going to charge you between 10 and 20% of the grant. And so if you're bringing in $100,000, they're going to charge you 10,000, between 10 and 20,000 to manage that grant. You do the work, you invoice them, you get a check. Okay. And so usually that's how it works. There's all kinds of models out there. I would go to the fiscal sponsorship directory.org. I would also look at Candid Learning Center on fiscal sponsors. They've got some great information, and check that out if that's something that you might be interested in. Bartering is number 19. Everybody barters, whether you know it or not. I mean, like, who hasn't thought of something that you don't need anymore? Your microphone, so your desk, your computers, and you barter that for something that you do want, right? It's been going on for like ages. So everybody barters. It's just, are you bartering informally or formally? And I kind of mentioned earlier that was a form of bartering, I suppose. Well, no, I actually literally, legitimately bartered when I came across it was a school that needed nonprofit, and they needed training for their staff. And so I said, I was always on the lookout for these training rooms. You've got a very nice training room. I will train all of your staff in my training in exchange for being able to use that room. Okay. And so that worked. And so it might be a service you offer. It might be something that you just physically have that you no longer need, and you barter. If it's formal bartering, I would strongly encourage you to go to the IRTA. You see that at the very bottom. It's the International Reciprocal Trade Association. They're the largest bartering association in the world, and you can learn a lot about how bartering works. It's very similar to fiscal sponsor in that you will have to pay a fee based on the barter. So if the barter, it's almost like a tax, like 3 to 5% of the value of the barter, because bartering does not involve cash. I meant to say that. That's really important. That is where you're exchanging things and getting what you need, but there's no exchange of money. All right. But because there's a value attached to that barter, bartering platforms will charge you based on the value. All right. And so anyway, so bartering is the number 19. Please barter, because it can save you a lot of funds that you would normally have to spend on things that now you won't. The next is bequest. And for bequest, about just under $50 billion, just under $50 billion is spent every year in bequests. But I have found that many of my nonprofits don't know that. And so how it works is it's very simple. It's not complicated. It's planned giving. You can put a link on your website that says your donate now button will even do it. But anyway, that says that, get involved, get engaged with legacy or planned giving for the future. So maybe they're not in a position to give today, but if this is a cause that they truly value, then maybe they'll add you to their will. This is what bequest is, so that once the estate is settled, whatever it is they gave you, you get, whether that's property or cash or whatever it is, you get that into your organization. And I want to tell you that it is a big deal. The pledge, the giving pledge, these are like the Billionaires Club. Billionaires across the world, across the planet, have decided that they're going to give away one half of their net worth, either whilst they're living or when they pass away. And so they are also engaged in one of the reasons that we see so much bequest happening, but you can go on over to their website and find out who these billionaires are. You can actually go over to the American Red Cross to create your own page. I have this here because I know sometimes we think we have to recreate the will, but we don't. And so the American Red Cross has done a very good job on their bequest page. So go on over there, check it out, and see if this might be something you are interested in. Our method 21, I've got like 2 minutes, is federal and state government grants. And so the reason it's listed here as uncommon is because if you're super new, you probably don't have a federal grant, maybe not even a state grant, because they're discretionary. It's cost reimbursement. You've got to have matches. Essentially, you have to have some cash, right? Or know people with cash before you can get many of these grants. Not all of them, but many times the IRS, the government is going to ask you to match their dollars. They're going to say, this is a grant for up to 1 million or whatever it is. Let's use 100,000 for my ease on my brain. And 20% has to be matched by you. In that case, you got to find, what is it, $20,000, right? Otherwise, you're not eligible. And so they're great to get because our federal government understands that you need operational costs. They don't mind paying for your building, your van, your staff. They know that needs to happen. And so they're great opportunities when you're ready for them. And these are some federal grant making categories because I have people that'll say, well, Cheryl, I'm not sure if what I'm doing is suitable for a federal grant. Well, if you're in one of these categories, it is. And so there are federal agencies that give for not to nonprofits that operate in these categories. You can screenshot this, and then obviously you're going to get the slides. All right, we're going to move right on to we're sort of moving into our bonus. These are contracts, but it's still government. The barrier to government contracts is understanding how to get through the procurement phase of things. But government contracts is listed as uncommon because many nonprofits that are new don't know how to receive or to get them, to look for them, or anything else. And so I have them here because if what it is you're doing is something that the government needs, the government contracts with agencies every day, including nonprofits. Our nonprofit, I've done this too. I mean, like these ones, they are a challenge to get. But when you're talking about the last government contract that I wrote and won was just under $1 million. And so, yeah, I'm going to spend the time to do it. And it was recurring, which means we got it again like the next year. And so if you can find a government contract where they need something you are doing, I absolutely want you to apply, even if you've got to hire somebody to get you through the process, right? So government contracts is another way. And these are big dollars here. The states also have their opportunities for nonprofits out there. It has always been a challenge finding these state opportunities, but not so much anymore. I don't have a screen for this, so you all have to just write this down. If you go to your state, and let's say you are, I have to remember where I am, North Carolina. You go to your state and you put in North Carolina State Grant Portal. Okay, North Carolina State Grant Portal, California State Grant Portal, Georgia State Grant Portal. I don't think we have ours yet, but you put that in, and that's going to help you determine whether or not the state has already developed a grant portal. There's about 25, 30 states that have already done this. And so if your state's one of them, it's going to make it so much easier for you to find your state grants finally. But this is really a new thing. This is just starting to happen. If you are in a state that doesn't have a grant portal, then go to your state's main website and put in funding opportunities to get at where these funding opportunities are in your state. All right. So that's hopefully that's helpful for a lot of you because states, gosh, they would prefer to do business with the organizations in their state. They'll go outside, but they would much prefer to do business with you, the one that's already here. I have a bonus and then we're going to wrap up. So the bonus is commercial loans. And I have them here because many of you need a bridge loan. But the thing is you've got to be in a position where the bank can see that you have the ability to repay. All right. If you do, then this might be a good option for you. It can be risky because you have to repay it. The good news is they do have their own guardrails, and so they usually will not fund you if they don't think you can. But you definitely want to, or because you're going to be risking the organization's good name and and EIN number if or credit history if you don't pay on time. So it's really important you do this only out of necessity because it's not free money. You'll have to pay it back. They'll usually ask you to guarantee it too. And the guarantee can't come from anybody off the street. Guarantees for nonprofits can only come from officers. Okay. So the officers have to guarantee. All right. That's what I want to share there. And then, oh, wait, there's one more. Y'all, I did this for you this morning. Take this class again, it'll be a little more polished. All right, but this one's important because this comes from private foundations. All right, so this is program related investments, and this is where a private foundation is your lender. And so, yes, you technically have to repay this money, but they can also just waive it and forgive it. They can do it. Now, do they do that all the time? No, but they can. All right. And so, this is where the private foundation is saying, hey, we've got to give 5% of our net adjusted gross investment income from last year. IRS, is there another way we can do this? And so the IRS has come back to say, well, yeah, you can also do this with cost related investments. They love this. And so that means that they can fund you absolutely through the foundation. But if they've expended their foundation funding, or if there is another avenue where they can help you and get their money back,
Many of them, folks, are doing it. All right. So, this is a listing of program related opportunities from some big named non foundations. And this is the kind of work they like to fund. And they don't always just look at your credit, they're also going to look at your social credit, so that social return on their investment is also important. And so, you've got some looking at housing, some community development, all right, social enterprise. And so, you can go and Google some of these foundations, but you can also get at them from grant databases. When you go to your grant database, put in program related investment if you want to get a listing of organizations that will give. And I've also got thenfoundation.org just because they have enormous resources on program related investments. And so that was my bonus for you all. And I think now we're done. We did it. We got through it, folks. So keep your momentum. Remember what I said in the very beginning. You're a legend. Legends are built by choice, not chance. Nothing that I talked about here just falls in your lap. You got to go get it. And if you have this life in this nonprofit, because you're strong enough to live the life and to manage and lead this nonprofit. So do what legends do. Go out there and get it. And thank you so much to SCORE Charlotte for the opportunity to allowing me to get online and share this information means the world to me. And I'm hoping that it was useful for you too. And now, for all of you who are still here, you can see for sure why I didn't have bandwidth to go into the weeds on how to do every little thing. What's important for me for this conversation was getting out the where and the what, and join me for other sessions for how. Okay. Oh, small plug. I almost forgot this. Um, SCORE has courses now. Yeah, SCORE National. And we just launched a course. It's the small business grant writing course. I've gotten so much positive feedback from it. But if you're interested in that and learning how to do it on demand, that's the course for you. That's the small plug. So, anyway, that's new. That just came out last month in December. All right. And so I am Cheryl Smith, and supporting you all is what I do. That's what I do. All right. And so thank you so much. And I'm so happy to take more questions now if we have some. Oh,
Let
let's
me
see.
interject one thought too, Cheryl. Thank you again.
Okay.
As usual, very, very big response. You can see in the comments. Um, I'm representing SCORE Charlotte. If you're in the Charlotte region, which covers about 14 counties, you can request a SCORE mentor and you'll get one right away. There's about 80 mentors, and we can help you. We can't do the work for you, but we can help you stay on track and access resources. And so that would be reaching out to SCORE Charlotte, or if you just go to score.org, it'll ask you where you live and direct you to the nearest chapter. So good.
Good, good deal. So we are at our time. I really wanted to take more questions. You all, I think we took quite a few questions along the way. So I'm hoping that that was helpful. And I'm just checking real quick to see what I've missed in the Q&A. Oh, we talked about most of these. All right, so we talked about most of these. Keep going. All right, Carl, we did. All right, so I think that we've got most preferred database, bartering, reportable to the IRS. It could be if you know what, if you're reporting, thank you. Is this Melissa? Thank you, Melissa. Whatever you're doing in terms of in kind, and I should have mentioned this, in terms of in kind, bartering, any of these things, they have value. And so the IRS doesn't just look at the cash that you bring in, they also look at, the value. And so I work with organizations that do barter and bringing in value, and who bring in even food. I've got one from a food that brings in over $50,000 in donated food every year. And that is reportable. So the short answer, Melissa, is yes, it is reportable. Yeah. And so, yeah. And so Sam says, at what point do you consider starting to pay yourself as a nonprofit coordinator? I struggle with this thought. Um, when you have at least 6 months of admin resources available to pay yourself. So you don't want to pay yourself at the first opportunity when you just get a pocket of money in, unless you have written yourself into a grant for that. In that case, absolutely pay yourself. But if that's not the case, you wait until you've got that funding built up. Will the recording be available? Yes. There was a question that Sharika, it was a question from Sharika. I just want to take this last question that you asked me. I think it was earlier. How do you separate your private business from your own nonprofit? Is that what you asked me? I'm thinking it was, Sharika. Okay, that was what it was. By partnership. So you're going to have a partnership agreement that you're going to use. And so I get this a lot with like consulting folks who they have consulting for mental health, but they also have a mental health organization. So you have a partnership. You have to make sure that your board approves that partnership, that you're not charging more than market rate, ideally under market rate for anything you're going to charge. If you are partnering with that nonprofit that you actually have a stake in, so that's a really important thing. Anything having to do with that for profit, you don't have a vote on. It's never a good idea to have the same board members on both, because now it's not arm's length, and now you can be looked at as private benefit or inurement. So you partner through a partnership arrangement that spells out in no uncertain terms how you are partnering, and that you are supporting the organization, and it is not in the reverse. So a for-profit can always support a nonprofit organization that is partnered with, but nonprofits are not designed to support in the reverse. So because otherwise it's looked at as like some type of private benefit to that other organization, but it's through partnership. So you can have both. Many people do. And here's one more thing I want to say on that, because I get this a lot especially when it comes to assets, because the nonprofit's like a child with its assets. It's going to hold on to those assets. And if you give something to a nonprofit, you don't get it back. Vehicles, buildings, it doesn't matter what you gave, you can't get it back. No, even if you're no longer affiliated. And so a lot of the nonprofits that I work with, at least, we make sure that they have their assets where in their like LLC. And so that those assets are on loan, or those assets are given temporarily, just temporary use, or licensed to the nonprofit, so that the LLC, you maintain your assets. So I would say making sure you've got a clear conflict of interest policy in place, making sure you don't have the same board members on both boards, making sure you have a partnership agreement in addition to conflict of interest, and then making sure, just in my opinion, I'm going to treat you like you're my own family. If it's a asset that you're not sure you want to part with, don't. You keep the asset, right, and allow the nonprofit to benefit from its use. I'm hoping that answered your question. I think y'all are amazing. I have loved your questions so much. I wish I could just carry you all to every one of my classes. These were amazing questions. I hope they've helped you, and I won't keep Pete any longer. I want to thank you all for showing up today. Please, please join us for future classes. You all are amazing, and thank you for what you do in your communities.